Sir, we're approaching a podcast. It's part of the Legion Academy collective called Dice Time.
That's it. Bob Swaim and Ben Jetron are there.
My lord, there are several Star Wars Legion podcasts. It could be any number.
That is the one. Admiral, set your course for Dice Time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dice Time. I'm Ben Jetron.
And I'm Bob Swaim, coming to you from the same undisclosed location that I was last time.
We are actually, well, I don't know if it's the same undisclosed location. We're actually outside of the game store here on Batu.
How did you get us here so quickly?
Oh, you know, the ship.
It's a piece of junk.
It's a fast ship.
We're outside
the... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we're at there's so many game stores in the universe here. We're at the Atomic Falcon. I love this place. Doesn't this guy owe us some cards or something? Yep,
we placed an order for some Sabbat cards because you keep losing. I played some last night. And I did not do well. And I'm hoping for some genuine custom quality cards, if you know what I'm saying.
So he's going to make you mark cards?
No, don't say that. Don't say that on
No, with like that hula girl on the back of it, marked.
Yeah, yes, that's what we're going for. Just it's a custom design.
That's pretty awesome. All right.
Anyway,
I'm go deal with that. I think I see somebody over here that I need to go talk to. You remember Paul Watson? Oh yeah, we talked to him like 2 days ago when he beat up on you.
Oh, is that Paul? Why is Paul here?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You go say hi, and then I'll go get the order, and I'll come back.
So, Mr. Watson, how's it going?
How you doing, you old pirate? So good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's only been 2 days. That was a great game you played there. That was a lot of fun. Congratulations on your win at Atomic Games there. Why is every place named Atomic here? That's very weird. You know Ben's over there. He's picking up an order of some custom cards he had made.
Yeah, it's been such a long time since I've seen him.
Ben, get your butt over here. Watson wants to kick your butt again.
Oh, hey Paul, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? You ready for another beatdown?
Oh yeah, maybe. Maybe with these Sabbat cards once they're done. The guy's not actually done. No, he doesn't actually have them done because some scruffy looking nerf herder picked up the wrong order this morning, so he's actually got to make more in the back right now.
Jesus. Well, at least we can sit around and talk to Paul, right? That's always fun.
Yeah. Although the guy did give me this flyer here. I don't know if you've seen this. Check this out. It's a flyer for Friday Night Fights. It's
I love Friday Night Fights on the big screen.
Yeah, it's a Legion Academy. If y'all haven't heard their podcast, you have to go check them out. They're
y'all. Are you Southern Galaxy now? What are you doing?
We live in the Midwest, Bob.
Yeah, there's no you all here though.
We live in wild space. Okay. But if anyone hasn't checked out their podcast, Legion Academy yet, go check them out. They do a live stream show every Tuesday, and then they do an awesome Friday Night Fights game. They live stream a game on their YouTube channel at Legion Academy. If you're listening to this on YouTube, then you're already on the right channel. But they do awesome games. If you're listening to this the week that this episode is dropped, you just missed their Halloween special that they did Friday. Go back and watch that because it's awesome.
It's going to be very cool.
Well, it already was. It was very cool.
It was already cool. That is right.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, it was great. Did you see that game? Great. Awesome.
Yeah, that was hot.
Don't forget to also check out their Patreon. They do some really awesome stuff. They give out some acrylic tokens and different little gifts. They actually just announced that they were doing some, I don't know if you saw this, Bob, but they're doing some custom like Mandalorian silhouettes this month, which are going to be really awesome.
Those look really cool. They're going to do them in green and yellow for the Mandalorian symbol. The what is that thing? A Mygosaurus? Minosaurus?
The Mythosaur.
Yeah, that thing. And then they're doing the Mudhorn also on a brown. I don't remember exactly what color the Mudhorn. I think it was going to be black or something. But they looked really good. They didn't really have them done, but they showed us the acrylic plates, and they looked really, really, really neat. That's out on the
Sure.
Patreon.
All right. Well, Paul, while we have you here, I'm just gonna put this flyer in my pocket.
Yeah.
Out of the millions of episodes that Dice Time has done, I don't think we've had Paul Watson on the show before. Paul, for anyone who hasn't heard of you before or hasn't seen you on any of the other podcasts, would you kindly just briefly give us a little introduction as to the great Legion hipster himself, Paul Watson?
Sure. Well, I guess to start, everything you guys have heard about me is true. Definitely.
Exactly.
I did start playing Legion right away at the beginning. I've been waiting for this game forever.
Yeah.
Waiting for someone to do it. I used to play the old Wizards of the Coast Star Wars miniatures game that they came out with. I have a whole bucket load of those miniatures.
Yeah.
I love that game. That game actually got me into this game because I sold a bunch of those guys to get my pieces to start Legion. So.
Absolutely. I mean, I liked the game. I enjoyed it. It wasn't quite what I wanted from a tabletop miniatures game. Like, I wanted more of what Legion offers. And so when they came out with it, I was like, oh, absolutely, I'm jumping on board with that. One of the other games I play is the Games Workshop Lord of the Rings game, and have enjoyed that one a lot too. So when they did Star Wars, I was like, yep, I'm on board. And so I actually started playing events for Legion right away at the beginning. At Adepticon, they had a couple of skirmish events actually. The first couple of days of Adepticon there, we played. I actually won both of those events pretty early on. There wasn't a whole lot available then. And honestly, I've been playing about the same list with the same kind of stuff for the majority of my, I guess, Legion playing career. And whether I switch factions or not, it tends to be pretty similar. I really enjoy support units, especially Rebel ATRTs has been my kind of go-to for a long time. That's, I think, also the list that kind of gave me that hipster title, which I will say I wasn't the first one to be running ATRTs like that. There was another gentleman that I think he's from the Chicago area that also ran them pretty early from the beginning. But yeah, I love the support units. I played RTs a lot for Rebels. When Clones came out, I did a triple Bark Speeder list for quite some time. And was pretty successful with it. I find those support units really fun to play, and
you're one of the few people that I know that can play those clones bikes, because everybody I've ever played against cannot keep them to where they're turned around the right way, or they can't get you in the right arc, or they run into stuff because of the movements and trying to get them through holes and to do all kinds of stuff with them. So it's interesting to watch you play those, because it's like, man, never seen anybody use those. What's he thinking? And then you just basically breeze them through and kick the butt, of everything that you shoot at, and you get them in perfect position. And like, every game is really fun to watch what you can do with pieces that a lot of people, ignore, like the speeders. Everybody's like, oh yeah, these are great. No, they're not. They suck. And then you come through and just wallop people with them, and you go, oh, okay, give it a second look.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things. I think one of the reasons that I was able to get their movement down pretty well is they're actually on the same base size as the ATRTs. And so I was used to using ATRTs and, doing a full move with an ATRT. It's the same as doing a full move, the speed 2 move if you have the sidecar on with the Barks. And so I was familiar with how far that typically is. Can I get around the corner of this building to get a clear shot, or do I need to take a kind of a wider approach on it? Those kinds of things. So I think that did help me in not crashing into things as much with them, because it is a skill that if you're using a repulsor vehicle, you definitely have to have down, is making sure you don't crash onto things. And I will say too that by the time Barks came out, I believe it was a little more forgiving, because I think they had changed the repulsor vehicle rules right around that time, where they didn't have to be completely flat and they could be at that 45-degree angle. their base or whatever. I believe that's around the time that it came out. But
I think it was too. Yeah, that sounds about right.
one of the biggest challenges with those units is also one of, I think, the greatest things about them. One of the things I loved about the Bark Speeders and playing them is the fact that I get to move, put myself into position to have a good shot on you, and I still get to aim and shoot at you.
Exactly.
So, that's the bonus of those like repulsor vehicles, and if you can get good with them, they're definitely useful, and they definitely have a place in these objective games where, a 6x3 table is a lot, but when you have a speed even 2, or especially a speed 3 repulsor vehicle, it can get all the way across that table in a turn. It's not too difficult.
Bottom line, Paul knows these support units, and Paul will take those models that you're not putting on the board and show you why you should be putting them on the board.
Yeah, I think...
Bottom line.
to go along with that comment, I think not just in this game, but in all games that I play, I guess that's why the hipster-like thing kind of sticks. Someone in the community called me that when I won with the RTs, and it just kind of has stuck since then. But, to be fair... that is kind of my MO, is that you tell me what the meta list is, and I'm going to say, yeah, but what if I throw this at you? Like, what are you going to do about that?
I got to organically watch the process when we were playing Squadrons, when we were playing together, and we were like throwing ourselves at the wall, just trying to see what stuck. And then you were just like, you were just like, what is this ion gun? And I was like, oh yeah, like I don't really see anybody using that, because it's like, you're not always like shooting at, shields and whatnot. And I think it's meant for fleet battles or whatever, but it can be kind of cool if you like can maybe stun someone for a second. And Paul was just like, I'm just going to try that, cause I'm losing anyway. Let's just try something different and maybe it'll work. And the next round, we just went through and systematically destroyed the entire team, because Paul was just ionizing everybody, and then the rest of us would just swoop behind him and just take dudes out that were just floating in space. And it was just like, Paul, you took the thing that no one's using in these battles, and you turned it into an effective weapon and won us the game. I literally just watched the Paul Watson process happen in front of me.
Yeah, I definitely like to take something and just push it to its absolute extreme and see if it can be useful or not. And that was, I remember that game, and it was just, I was having so much fun, because I was like, not only am I using the ion weapon, but I also switched my missiles over to ion missiles. So everything I hit was just going slow and not being able to get away from you guys, because I was like, I am not good at this dogfight game right now. So let me see what I can do to be helpful for my team. Yeah, it's that process to me I really enjoy, is finding things that, when you play it, people are like, what the heck is going on here? I played Star Wars Destiny card game by FFG, and that was one of the things I love to do too, is play cards, and people are like, what? Like, no one plays that. Like, well, it just killed your character. So, surprise, I found out how it works.
So, we had some real fun with our last couple, we for the last few months at Atomic Games, not Atomic Falcon. At Atomic Games, we've been playing 500-point Star Wars Legion Skirmish Mode. And I was only able to make it to the back 2 months, but we had a blast.
It's a really good time. We've had good turnout. Everybody's been happy because the games are a little bit quicker. We get in 3 games instead of 2 like we usually do with 800s, because it takes up so much time and setup. But that seemed to got a good report from everybody that really like them. I think we're going to go back to 800 probably in November just to change things up. And I'm sure everybody wants to get their toys out and play with them, and all the new stuff and this and that. But what do you think, Paul, about skirmish and stuff?
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of really good points. I like, if I'm traveling down there, that I get to play 3 games. It's not that long for me, but it is a couple hours for me round trip. 3 hours round trip, I think. But it's nice to get in a few games. It's nice to play different people. If I do happen to play against one of the guys that I came with, like rode down with, it doesn't take up half of the day. it's like, okay, here's a quick little hour game, then I can get to the next person that I haven't played,
I try
or
to
don't play locally.
I try to put you guys in the computer so you don't play your own guys, but sometimes it just works out that way, depending on strength or your MOV and your strength of schedule and all that good fun stuff. It, if you're the best and they're the best, then I got to put you guys together. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, some of that is unavoidable, but Skirmish just allows you to play a game and move on, even if you're playing someone that you've played a bunch of times. It's not as bad as, okay, well, here now I have a 3-hour game with someone that I could have just played at home with.
So, I think as far as Skirmish goes, as a game mode, it is, for any of you that are unfamiliar, that haven't played it, instead of an 800-point standard game, it is a 500-point smaller table, as opposed to a 6x3, it is a 3x3, and you have a different list building, restriction. You can only have one commander, you can only have one operative, or up to one operative. You can only have 2 to 4 core units, as opposed to 3 to 6.
You have to have
2 to 4
core units.
2 to 4. And so different list building restrictions and that sort of thing. And it's super fun. Like I said, we've been playing it at the Atomic Store I guess I can't say that. We're at 2 different Atomic stores. We're at Atomic Games in Muncie, Indiana. Best place to play Legion. It has been 3 months, the past 3 months we've been doing skirmish events just because it's fun. And, I think there's 3, major pros to skirmish that I'd like to touch on. The first one. I'm glad you asked. The first one is that I believe that it is a quicker version of the game, and that is a quicker, faster, smaller version of Legion, which, I mean, some people could see as a con, but I see it as a pro as well. It's less setup, it's less teardown, it's less turns, and it's less activations. If you don't feel like you have a whole block of time, to put aside for a full game.
It's only 1 round shorter, but that time goes a lot quicker because you've only got an hour and 15 minutes. You lose 45 minutes out of it. So you can't just sit back and go, I'm going to wait till round 4 or 5 to do something. No, you've got to get in there. People are on you a lot quicker. You don't have that. One of the condition cards is day or dawn. So it's the only card you get a range 2 ban on the first round, but after that it's all opened up, so your snipers and everybody can go to round 2. So that gives you that first round, kind of like the card in the big game that gives you a couple of rounds to get set up. This gives you 1 round, so you better be in position when round 2 comes around, because most likely somebody's going to be shooting at you because you're that close. A lot less terrain to hide behind. But yeah, it makes it a lot quicker and a lot cleaner, cause it's over very quickly. I've seen games run 15-20 minutes because it's that bloody sometimes. And I've seen them go to right at an hour and 15, and it comes down to maybe 1 unit being killed, and that wins the game for you because everybody played strategically. On some boards you can hide, but most boards they're going to get to you, especially if you've got a force user. Paul will touch on that here in a little bit, but they're going to get in your face, and you're going to have to deal with it. And no matter what you got, a force user with a lightsaber is going to be messing you up, no matter how good your rolls are. There's going to be that point to where they're just going to get a better roll and take you.
I don't want to jump the gun too much, or maybe this is a good segue for you, but I think kind of that barrier of entry is nice about 500 points too. If you got a core set with your buddy, you could play skirmish right out of a core set, and it'd be an okay game.
Point number 2: it serves as a great demo game. Less to manage, smaller table. You can easily fit it on most tables, and it serves as a great way to learn the game if you just bought the core and you just bought a core box and maybe a unit or 2, and you just want to learn the game.
Yeah. We actually did that with one of the guys I was teaching. We had 6 people show up to play the tournament, and then I had 4, I would call them newbies, people just learning. One guy had a little bit of good knowledge, and then the store owner, Slade Smith, was playing. He knows how to play. We were teaching his 2 daughters how to play. But we had a guy show up who actually had a core set, and he was playing some droids, and all they had to buy was 1 set of the commando droids, and they had a full team to go. And man, that dude knew what he was doing, because he was tearing up everybody he was playing with those droids.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think, I said if you bought a core set, you could play right out of the box. I think the only faction that's a little low on points right out of the box is actually the droid faction, just because their core units are so cheap. It's not by much if you really max out the upgrades and everything else, but it's still a little shy. You really need one, like Bob said, one more box of something, and it could be just about anything. Another core unit, another support unit, a special forces unit, whatever you want to do, just kind of toss in there.
Going on
or Cad Bane.
I was going to say, I played a game against a guy with a Cad Bane and a Grievous, and the rest of it, he had one of the commando snipers or something out of it, and then a couple of regular droid units. And it was a hard team. It was good. He set up poorly. Sorry, Chris, but he set up Cad Bane in the wrong place and got him smoked pretty quick.
You already ragged on him for this last.
I know. I'm ragging on him again because he did show up to play this week.
All right. Well, I'm going to give him a pro in this episode when we talk about lists later.
There we go. But it was awesome. It was a beautiful list, and he actually, honestly, I think Cad Bane and the sniper unit were not in the starter, of course, but it was an easy list to build. He got it all together, and he did very well with it. I think I was his only loss, and
it was a good list.
It was a great list. He played it well. I can't wait
till we get generic commander to make him, because I know that him and me love Cad Bane, and we want to make Cad Bane the star of our list.
Exactly.
Paul, have you had any experience bringing anyone into the game or anything with Skirmish?
So in my local store in my area, that was one of the things that we did once Clone Wars hit. Is we did a 500-point event because it was really easy for those of us who had been playing for a long time to bring whatever we wanted, whether it was going to be the same faction we always played or if we wanted to dabble into one of the new factions. Plus, there was a lot of people in our area that were really interested in Clone Wars and wanted to jump in, and that was a good way to kind of introduce them to the kind of competitive scene, but again, 500 just seems, I guess, so much less competitive in my mind, even though the games can be just as tight and sometimes even more tight and competitive than the 800-point ones. It just, I don't know, it seems more relaxing to me to play at 500 points rather than 800. It just, to me, I feel like in the 800-point game, there's a lot of pressure in the first couple of turns, and you can make some big mistakes early that really is really hard to climb out of in 800 points. Whereas, I guess I just haven't run into that as much in 500. Like for instance, when we played this past weekend, one of my opponents, turn one, I lost. I was playing Rebels and I lost my ATRT and a Mark II veteran, detachment, and I was down 2 of my 6 activations on turn 1 and hadn't killed anything of my opponents, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can come back from this. And it really wasn't that bad. Like, I was able to catch back up and ended up winning that game. It was a close game. It's interesting how I think the action comes a lot quicker, but you don't have to be as precise in where you go the first round as 800 points.
Yeah, I also was using the game, like Skirmish Mode to, bring a lot of people into the game. I've brought my, like, one of my roommates who he was like, I'll play Legion as soon as droids come out. I had another guy who's a friend of ours who comes down and he doesn't really get to play a lot of, like, miniatures games. He plays, like, D&D and stuff, but like, with us all the time, but he's never really played, like, Warhammer or any game equivalent to that. And he was really like, yeah, we were like, come on, man, you want to play? And he was just like, man, like, I can't afford it right now, and I can't really, play with, or I don't have anywhere to store all that stuff or paint it or anything. I can't really get into it right now. And I was like, well, you can just borrow our stuff if you just want to play it and, like, see what you think. If you really love it, maybe give it a shot. And he was like, yeah, okay. And so he, like, told me, like, what I've been idiotically collecting all 4 factions. So I was just like, tell me, like, whatever you want and we can make the list for you. And he ended up making a Vader skirmish list with like a sniper and some stormtroopers to support him, and it was a really fun game. We had I made a Luke mirror, so that we had a classic like Luke and Vader clash. I've also brought the game to my local game store and like set up a little skirmish game, and then just would tell people like, hey, come on down if you want to learn Legion. Like, I've already got everything all set up. You just have to walk up to the table and be ready to play. And people have really enjoyed that. I also gave my girlfriend Trista the introduction to the game on Skirmish, because like we said, it's just such an easy, less to manage than the full game mode. And she's actually gotten too good at it because I can't even beat her now.
I was going to say, she's beat you both games that she played, so at the store at least.
Yep.
She's actually came in higher ranking than Ben has.
Yep, literally she's come in 1 or 2 places above me in the past 2 skirmish events, and I was like, come on.
But you guys got a really cool cup this time, so since you didn't get one the last time. So.
I did get a cool cup this time for being 5th out of 6 people. Anywho, the third major point that I wanted to touch on for Skirmish was that it offers new list building options. List requirements are completely different than what they are in the 800 point, and so are the points and stuff that you're building with. So you've got to make different stuff than you normally would, and you're gonna see different units based on not only the list building restrictions. You're gonna see different list combos. Also, you're gonna see different units based on the table size. So like, just because like the map is different, the list restrictions are different, the points total is different, you're gonna see much different stuff than you would see in the full competitive 800, or not even competitive, but just the full 800 lists. It's gonna be, you can see watered down smaller versions of what you would see in 800, but and you're listening to the right podcast to give you some examples. You can make some really wild stuff that you would not play at an 800 point level that work pretty well or are just really fun at the 500 level.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, I feel like you need to start us off, because the list you've been playing for the past couple events has been exactly what you're talking about. Something that you would not see at 800 points, and just a good time to play against, play with. I think I haven't played with it, but I've played against you a couple times with it, and you seem to have a good time with it, even when all of your troopers are dying and doing nothing against me, because you have some kind of curse against me where you just can't roll dice. But
all right, we'll transition into some fun skirmish lists that we've liked to play. I will go ahead and debut this and patent it as my own, because I've never seen anyone do it. So
okay, remember, it's not called Ladies' Night this time. So
no, this is not Ladies' Night. I've patented that one, but I'm patenting a new list. So if you want to try this at home, I can guarantee you, you will not want to it'll be like Pringles. You won't just want to play one game with it. You'll play one, and then you'll want to do it again and again until you're playing it at every skirmish event. So we are going to talk about my favorite skirmish creation that I've come up with, my skirmish abomination, which I call the Tantive 4 team. It is a rebel list that is led by Leia Organa, who, because I was just filling in points, has emergency stims and esteemed leader. Then it is R2-D2 and C-3PO, who have HQ uplink. Then it's 2 units of fleet troopers who have scatterguns and an extra body. And then 2 units of fleet troopers that have the scattergun and medic droids. And that list comes out to 493. So that is a fun list that I cooked up specifically for thematics, that I was like, what if I made all 4 of my core that I can have in skirmish fleet troopers? Because the board is smaller. I can get them to, like, in most deployments and most setups, I can get them to fire turn 1, which is something that at 800, your fleet troopers are almost never going to get to do. So they almost never see play, because people see fleet troopers coming down the board, and then people go, I have to kill that right now. And what I've found, and Paul will, if he won't agree with me outright, he'll agree with me with with how he runs stuff. The way to make something a little bit better is to flood your list with it. Because then your opponent can't target one and kill it, and then it never saw the light of day. If you bring it in excess, your opponent really can't stop it from doing what it's meant to do.
He had so many fleet troopers, I had to loan him a set of fleet troopers to pull this off.
And I still ended up having to proxy because I'm still waiting on mine to come in the mail. But yeah, it is a really fun list to play. So go out and try the Tantive 4 team because it is super swingy. I will say outright at the 2 skirmish events, it went 1 and 2 both months that I played it. However, one of those games each month were against Paul, and I'm not allowed to beat Paul, so it could have been different. It could have been 2 and 1. But in all the games that I've done casually with it, like with my roommates and stuff, like I've had success and I've won with it. So it's got a lot of cool stuff going in it.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary list having all those shotguns. Like all that Pierce is just, and that dice pool is just crazy. It's a interesting list to play against, and like you said, I definitely do agree with you. If one isn't working for you, just add a few more and see if it works then.
That's what I was going to say with the ATRT. It's like, if one ATRT isn't doing it for you, try 3 and see what you think after that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like you said, if you have one fleet trooper in your list and your opponent focuses it down, it's like, well, that really didn't like how those fleet troopers worked. But same thing with an RT. You got one RT and it goes down because, your opponent rolls, one shot that has quite a few crits in it, and all of a sudden it goes down, in the first turn or two. You're like, well, that really wasn't a whole lot of use. But then you have 3 of them, and even if one goes down, there's still more. Same thing with your fleets. Yep, I have 4 fleets, so you can kill one. What are you going to do with the next 3?
Yeah, right. And by the time you're focused on, by the time you've taken out one, the other 3 are ready to fire at you.
Absolutely.
And then you're taking 3 fleet troopers to like 1 or 2 units that are just going to delete you. Now, like I said, you are rolling all white dice in this list, so it is super swingy. I've had, quite literally at the store, I had games where I couldn't roll anything. Oh, Watson. And then I had games where I was rolling nothing but hits, like. And actually, I'll touch on that now. So I lost from everything from against Chris's droids. Now we played elimination, and Cad Bane and General Grievous were able to dive in and delete most of my fleets before they could really respond. So that was a problem. And then Leia was not really able to keep up, and R2 went and played Secret Mission. And that game was really, really close, and it ultimately came down to I lost because Leia was in heavy cover running away, so that like I was ahead by 1 point in turn 6, and and I think Grievous was dead, and Cat had already gone, and Leia was like on 1 health, and Chris moved some B1s. Like 4 B1s left in a squad to like shoot at Leia through heavy cover, and was just like, I'm just gonna go for it. And just threw 4 white dice and critted on 2 of them, like naturally. And I was just like, oh no, this is gonna be it. And I rolled 2 white defense dice and I blanked one of them and Leia died. And I was like, come on. And so Chris took that game. But like it went down to the last activation, so you can absolutely do that with this list. At the same time, you can also lose very quickly if all your fleets get completely destroyed, like turn 1 and 2, because your opponent brought something like Grievous or Operative Luke Skywalker, who decides he can just chop all of them in half for funsies. But
that's what makes this fun game, because it's a dice game. You never know what it's going to do. You can, like you said, you can roll all white dice and crit every one of them, or you just roll them all and you blank it. That's what makes it fun. Yeah, the better the dice are, the better the game, you play sometimes, but even your red dice will fail you.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
but
sometimes, especially on phase.
Sometimes those red dice on the defense side of someone else, they don't exactly love the pierce that the scatterguns bring. I played against Mike 2 months ago, not this month, but last month when I did the first skirmish where I debuted this, and I played against Mike, and we were playing the breakthrough equivalent, Breach, and I just about tabled him. He was down to one clone activation less, and he brought Arc, he brought an Arc Strike team, and he brought a bunch of Phase 1s and Rex, and I all but tabled him except for one Phase 1 squad that went wide on the opposite end of the board, because I just funneled everything into one side. And then on the other side, he ran one Phase 1 squad around, and if I wanted to go after them, I was just playing objective because Rebels, but if I wanted to go after him, I absolutely could have just, shot that unit down too, and just tabled him. And and then this month the game I won was against, Brendan, and it was just unlucky, because he rolled Grievous around into one of the fleet's medics standbys, and I hit on just about I think out of 10 dice that I rolled, I think I got 8 hits. With the one aim, I turned it into 8 hits, and then took Grievous down 6 wounds. He didn't save 6 of those, even with the impervious. He didn't save 6 wounds, and he ended up almost dying. And then another squad came in and just shotgunned him and wiped him out turn 1. And it was just a real unlucky. Say what?
That was awesome. That was a beautiful play. I was standing down there when you did that, and
man.
I'm like, what are you going to do now, man? If he gets in your face, because I thought Grievous said was attacking you, and I thought he was attacking you, and I looked and I go, oh no, you're attacking Grievous, aren't you? And you're like, yeah, and then you rolled that, and I was like, oh, and then you turned around and did it again the next round, or your next activation.
Oh, then I did it again with Staps. Yeah, I got 8 hits against his Staps. I was man, where were these dice all day? They're just suddenly now kicking in.
Well, you can't play Paul Watson, because those dice don't work that way against Paul Watson.
Exactly.
He's a Brad Moore to you. You have Brad and Paul.
I was like, Paul, do you want to play when my dice roll like this and just see what happens?
And
Bob, what kind of lists have you enjoyed running in Skirmish?
I got a couple. You know me. I play clones. I built a really nice arc, couple of arc units with 5s and Echo and Rex, and then a couple of Phase 2s in there, and it's a 5-unit squad, so it doesn't do well against everything. If you can get up there and get that combined fire with those 2 arcs, and then follow it up with a Rex, you can pretty much wipe out a CAD. We've already talked about that. But yeah, I like to run that. That's a lot of fun. But I've got someone one day said you can't play tanks in a skirmish game, and I'm like, oh, you can play tanks. It's just you're not going to have very much. So I at the house, I play a lot at the house with my buddy Mike. At the store, I don't really play that much. I judge and I try to teach the new players to get them better to where we can get them into the ranks and get them to where they're not shinies. I play Rex with just aggressive tactics on him. I'd throw R2 in there to keep behind the tank, because someone was talking today on one of the feeds about, R2 lives behind a tank. A lot. So I throw him in there. I throw a Phase 1 in with 5s and targeting scopes, another Phase 1 clones with a Z6 and targeting scopes, and then my tank. And it's really hard when you're used to playing your tank, and this is where skirmish comes in fun. You can try stuff because you don't have the points to take a whole tank and throw everything you want on it. So I throw in my Saber tank, and I put a veteran clone pilot on it, because I like to be able to use that to where he's actually just a clone trooper, and you can share tokens. And then I put the TX 130 twin laser turret on it. I don't put the tank buster on it. I don't put anything else on it, and I just run those. It comes out at $4.99, and it's only 5 activations, so your fighting droids are going to activate you. But that tank can take a beating. Everybody knows that tank can do that, especially with putting a dodge on it and being able to dodge crits. So that helps a lot. Dodge those out of there. But that's my go-to at the moment. I'm going to probably, if I get to play next time, well, we're going to play 800 next time, but the next time that we do play skirmish at the house or something, I'm going to pull that tank out. We haven't been seeing a lot of that in the skirmish, because I don't think nobody figures that you can put enough, in a squad with 200 points in a tank. But it's really nice to throw it out there when the droids are throwing the white dice at it and they're just all plinking right off of it, or nobody can get their crits in, or they don't have enough critical, to change it over to even try to get through it. And if they do, you've got R2 standing behind it. It'll be nice when they get the repair techs out and stuff for clones, because you'll just throw those guys behind it, and you'll basically just have a World War II tank with a bunch of troops walking behind it and then stepping out to shoot at the plate people, using the tank for cover. I
played a similar list to yours when we first started doing some skirmish events up by me before pre-COVID time. I enjoyed a tank in skirmish. It does a lot of work, and it starts like almost in range of everything on that little 3x3 mat. The bad thing with skirmish is I feel like most skirmish boards you want to have enough terrain where the game is fun and you can kind of hop in and out of buildings or cover pieces and those kinds of things to make the game really interesting for like the troops and the smaller vehicles. That I think there's the risk that sometimes your tank might be stuck in a certain area of the map, especially that Saber tank. It's not quite as tall as the AAT for the droids, and that can just, hover over everything. But the way I view the tank is you're essentially taking that instead of like a lightsaber user. You're spending 200 points. You're going to want it to do most of the work for you. I've had some success with it and had some fun. And like you said, R2 behind it is you're essentially just paying 35 points for 4 extra health on that tank, which is just nuts.
Speaking of lightsaber users, I know you like to use them. I never can get those guys to work for me very well. Played Kenobi a little bit at the beginning when you had to, but you're pretty good with Luke from what I hear.
So it's funny. I've only played. I played on Saturday with the Op Luke list, and I've only played him one other time, and had a lot of success with him both times. I just think he's a lot of fun. So my list was generic commander, Op Luke, a veteran squad with nothing on it other than Recon Intel Mark II, Rebel Trooper squad with the new Impact shotgun that comes in the Rebel Trooper upgrade kit, the 2 red, 2 white Impact 1 shotgun, and 1 rotary cannon ATRT. And yeah, the list is really just all about Luke. Everything else is just hopefully going to survive long enough to claim some objectives at the end, and just support Luke just a tiny bit. But he has so much going on for him. It's just really fun. He just bounces all over the place, and disengage is such a powerful keyword. And then the way I had mine kind of kitted out there was I had situational awareness in his training slot so he could dodge the crits. So just to keep him alive in case he gets shot at quite a bit. And then I had all 3 force powers, Jedi Mind Trick, Push, and Reflexes. And I think some people might think Push is overkill with Op Luke with the disengage, but I feel like it's one of those things where he just can do so many little shenanigans when he has a push and disengage and Jedi Mind Trick all wrapped into one. His cards, I think, are really quite powerful, especially in skirmish. One of the things that I think has always been powerful about Force users is most of them, I'm trying to think through all of them, so I might be wrong here if it's not all of them, but most of them have a card that allows them to attack more than once in a round.
I think so, yeah. And
Luke now has 2 of them.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, same thing with Vader. Vader has 2, technically, if you consider his, like, the Vader's Might card, an attack where he can move a unit and then potentially deal some damage to it. Whereas Luke really has an opportunity to, with both of his 1-pips, do 2 different attacks with both of those 1-pips. And then if that's not powerful enough, he has a 3-pip where, yes, he won't get an attack, but you can take away 2 opponents' trooper units attacks for the turn.
Yeah.
And so, especially in skirmish, you have 5 rounds, and if you think of 5 rounds and 2 of those Luke gets to attack twice, and 1 of those Luke might not be attacking, but two out of your 5 or 6 units are also not attacking.
Mm-hmm.
So he essentially has 3 opportunities to get like a double advantage on your opponent, which I think is just a really powerful set of cards, especially at 500 points. And I think there's the great thing about it, and I didn't use the same cards every game. Depending on the situation, you use them at different times for different reasons, especially like Luke's 1 pip, you serve your master well. You can use that to make one of your units attack again in a round. Or with Jedi Mind Trick, you can essentially make almost any unit your opponent has on the field other than, commanders or operatives make an attack against one of their own units. And that can just be used in so many different ways that it just provides a lot of versatility for Luke. I think, like Bob said, a Saber user just cuts through a lot of stuff in skirmish. Most of the time they're getting in turn 2, whereas sometimes in like an 800-point game, it might take you till your 3rd turn before you're really getting them in there. In skirmish, it feels like they're in there right away. And actually, in 2 of my 3 games on Saturday, he was in turn 1.
Yeah.
Or already cutting stuff up, so...
Yeah, and those melee kind of focused or the close range units really do shine in skirmish because they are already like at range. Like you said, and the same case with the fleets, I can sometimes get them to shoot turn 1.
Right.
So it's like whereas those units are usually riddled with bullets by the time they get to their optimal range to fire or to swing, to do their shtick. They can get there, like, where in a normal game, if they're really booking it, they might get there turn 2 or 3, maybe turn 4 if you're just going at a normal pace. But like in skirmish, they can get to melee like turn 1 if you really set it up.
I think it's a really good place to really feel out some units and what they can do and how you like playing with them. Because again, like you're talking about your fleet troopers. When you're playing an 800-point game, if you sit across from me and you only have 1 squad of fleet troopers, I'm going to make sure I keep an eye out on where they are and probably try to kill them before they get a shot off, or make them pretty weak so their shot isn't going to be very effective if they do get it off.
Right.
At 500 points, your opponent doesn't have as many tools at their disposal as an 800 to be able to do that, to essentially single out one unit and just attack it with everything until it dies, no matter where it's at, kind of thing. So I have found that I really like to play with new stuff in skirmish. Like I had never played with veterans before. In the past 2 skirmish events, I actually brought my Rebel veterans and the Mark II to play with and just test it out and see how I like them. And I've really been enjoying them. And part of the reason is because in skirmish you can put them out there and get them in range right away, and so you feel like they're doing what you brought them to do right away at the beginning of the game, rather than maybe having them die really early and being like, well, I didn't really get to do anything with them. That's disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you I know you had a really interesting experience with a clone list that I'm hearing about. Was this this was with Mike or with someone else?
Yeah, I was very surprised when I sat down. I knew he had clones because I had seen him, earlier the day with his tray of clones there, and I sat down to play him, and we were just, we're going over our lists and just telling each other what we have, and I was like, wait a minute, how many activations do you have? And he's like, 8. I'm like, okay, hang on. How do you have 8 activation clones in 500 points? It was just one of those things, like, essentially did what I try to do to my opponents before I even start the game, is get them to sit down and be like, wait a minute, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just...
Or why? Why did you do that?
Yes, that's true.
Mike is a lot of fun. He pulls that stuff all the time because, like I said, I play Mike just about every week. He comes to the house and we've got a game room, and he just brings some of the weirdest crap, and you're like, what are you going to do with that? And then, Mike's one of those guys like Paul. He loves to play the game. It's the game that he's there for. If he wins, that's awesome. If he loses, he doesn't care. He has no ego about it whatsoever, like a lot of us do. Oh man, I lost. So you spend the next 6 hours of how the hell did I lose when I had this? And I do that because he wins some. And, I always go back in the house going, how in the hell did he beat me with that rabble? And then, cause you said, you got 8 activations? And I'm like, I get 8 activations out of my rebels all the time. And you're like, yeah, in an 800 point game, he's got it in 5. And I'm like, oh God, okay, I know what he's playing because he did that crap to me the other day and he actually beat me with it. I was like, oh, cause it was like, I had the same reaction. It was like, oh, you have 8 activations. How do you do that? I've got 5, and he just relentless, just marches upon you, and you're like, oh crap, how am I going to kill all that?
Yeah, and it's funny like how successful those things can be. He was by far the closest to killing my Luke. He actually did 6 out of his 7 wounds over the course of the game, and I think here's the reason. I think most people, I'll jump Op Luke into one of their trooper units, and I think a lot of people, their first, reaction is to, well, I'm going to disengage with this unit so that way the rest of my army can shoot at this force user. Whereas I think, and he might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his mentality was like, well, I got 4 more of these groups of clone troopers, so I'm just going to aim and punch him to death. So,
yeah, and he does. We get in more fistfights on the board than a boxer does a lot of the times because we're both that way. We won't disengage. We'll just sit there and punch the hell out of him until one of us is dead, and then another unit will shoot, and then you move into them, and you just pull out the fist and you fisticuff. And we've done that with a whole army. We've maybe fired like 4 times in an hour and a half. But we punched the hell out of everybody. Everybody's got bloody knuckles because everybody's ran up on somebody and just started beating them with a stick.
Yeah, he was, and every punch that he had, it was like, oh, you have 4 guys? Oh, all 4 of them hit. Great, here we go.
Yeah, here come the dice. Not deflecting this.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it was interesting to play that because I had to play that differently because it's like, I have a lot of bodies to chew through. And I only have 5 rounds to do it in. So I have to make sure that I make each activation count and am doing, some killing every time I take an action. Otherwise, I'm not sure that I can get through all these clone bodies in that amount of time. So
what objective were you guys playing?
What were we playing?
Elimination.
Yeah, if we were playing elimination. It gives me a slight advantage. I had 6 activations for Rebels, but I had 2 different units that gave double points, whereas he only had 1. So the max I could get from him was 9, and the max he could get from me was 8. So I had to make sure that I wasn't losing stuff faster than him, and he actually he killed my commander, my generic commander, which is something that not very many other people go for, but he killed it pretty early, which gave him, 2 victory points right there. So it was like, okay, now I gotta do some work. He had one of my trooper squads almost dead. He killed my Mark II right away at the beginning of the game with a good shot from his RT, and yeah, so I was down early, and Luke had to do what he had to do most games, is catch me back up and earn his points. So
put the whole rest of the list in his backpack.
Yeah, just do some flips and stuff in the swamp, and
pretty much.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game, fun list to play against because there was just so many different clones, so many different activations, and it didn't matter where I went. He always could get to a spot with one or more of his units where he would have a clear shot at one of my trooper units or something. So it was scary facing that many clone troopers. That's for sure.
what exactly, like, did his list look like in case someone's like, I want to try
Oh yeah, sure.
8 activations of clones in 500? That sounds fun as heck.
Yeah, we were actually talking afterwards to see if there was any way to get it to 9 activations.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds awesome, and I'm curious what it looks like, 'cause I didn't get to play Mike this month. I played him last month, and his was only like, it was only 5 or 6 back then, because it was like Rex and Arc Strike, and then like, I think it was 3 or 4, I think it was 4 phase 1s. What did it look like this month?
Yeah, so he had a Rex with aggressive tactics, and then he had 4 naked Phase 1 clone trooper squads. He had 2 sniper strike teams, and then 1 rotary RT.
Man, so R2 wasn't even in the list.
No, yeah, R2.
I was sitting here
list.
thinking R2's got to be in there to make it 8.
And he still had a 3-point bid.
Man, that's crazy.
So we were talking afterwards. I was like, okay.
Did the RT have a gun?
Yeah, it had the rotary cannon.
Oh man.
I was like, okay, if you drop the rotary cannon for 20, you drop aggressive tactics for 10, you have 3 extra. I was like, oh man, you are 2 points shy of being able to bring this thing up to 9 activations with R2.
Oh man, it's so crazy.
It was fun. We talked about his RT kind of got in a little bit of a battle with mine, where I had to have Luke go and help my RT out and bail mine out because he was saving on his pretty well. But we got to talking about it, and he was shooting at my RT, and we talked about how using the base rocket that the Republic RT comes with was actually probably more beneficial than rolling the rotary cannon.
Yeah.
Against it. So
yeah, because it has the critical, right?
Yeah, critical one and the impact one.
And impact, yeah.
And after I kind of convinced him that was probably a better way to go, he proceeded to roll a crit and then re-roll into a surge and another hit, which then, impact 1 up to a crit, and the surge went to a crit. I was like, yeah, great, awesome. I should have kept my mouth shut.
Yeah. I've done that a couple times at like the store, but like I don't do it during tournaments, but like if I'm any other time, if it's not like a like tournament, I will absolutely be like, yeah, you gonna do this, and then my opponent like most of the time is like, no, I'll do this, but then like half of the time they're kind of like, no, well,
yeah,
maybe, that's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll try that, and then it proceeds to stomp me, and I'm like, well, good news, I was able to strategize better than my opponent. Bad news, it was against me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are your worst enemy.
Yeah.
I did enjoy playing. Well, honestly, a lot of the lists I played against were kind of those kind of push things in that direction as much as you. I mean, I played against you, Ben. You had the Fleet Troopers, your Tantive 4 list again. The clones just maxing out activations and bodies on you. Like, that was... Yeah. Again, I played against a lot of my own medicine, I think, this past weekend. Which I kind of deserved, I think, after the event before where I came and I brought that Rebel armor list that no one had any impact to deal with it, and so I kind of deserve to play against my own stuff a little bit.
You didn't play Josh last month, did you?
I didn't.
I don't remember.
It would have been like round 3. It would have been like round 3, but I don't think you did.
I am so bad with names.
Did you play Empire?
I played against an Empire list that was Iden. 2 Death Trooper squads.
Yeah, that would have been Josh.
That was him. Okay.
Yeah, that would have been Josh. Yeah, I was gonna say. I think.
Sorry, Josh. Forgot your name.
No, he was like. I remember we were talking about it later because we just love talking about lists and stuff, and he was like kicking himself because he's like, in every single game, I go out of my way to bring 1 rocket launcher to combat against people who bring like one vehicle because they think they can bring the vehicle because no one's bringing any impact, and then I bring one HH-12 just to tell them to sit their butt down and level the playing field. And he was like, and this is the one time I didn't bring an HH-12, and then I played against Paul, who had nothing but vehicles.
Yeah, like you said,
like, man.
He's bringing a rocket for that person who brings one ATRT, so he can kill it in a couple of rounds.
Yep.
And then it's not a big deal. And my list was, I feel like I run the actual generic commander for Rebels maybe more than any other commander for them.
You do. I'm like, this guy is named for you, right? Like, you put so much tender love and care into this man because you've brought him in almost every list. Every list I've ever played against you has had that guy in it.
It's true. The Prime that I won also was with him because it was right after Sabine came out. So.
Yep.
Yeah, my other list was him, the generic commander, R2, a veteran squad again. This one had recon intel, situational awareness, and the heavy weapon upgrade. And then a Mark II, and then I proceeded to add 2 rotary ATRTs and a T-47 with the power harpoon on it. And so, again, like you're talking about, bring one piece of armor, that's one thing. But now what are you going to do against 3 pieces of armor?
When, like, the majority of your list is armor.
Right.
And R2's there to, like, heal a walker if you end up shooting it.
Yeah, I just kind of hid R2 in a spot where he could jump out and heal one of the pieces of armor if it got too damaged. That was really what he was there for. He really wasn't there for the secret mission.
Yeah.
He was there to give my armor more health. And, yeah, it's just... And then, I had it set up in a way, too, where, I was giving my veteran squad dodges, so it was like, is it even worth shooting at them? Because they're in heavy cover, and they're gonna dodge some extras, so I just really didn't present a whole lot of good targets in that list. Other than the armor, because the armor would get up in your face really quick. And again, the same way I play supports. I throw them out there and say, shoot at my supports, because that they are essentially here to support the rest of my army. And so either they're going to sit there and do their job and shoot, or you're going to deal with them, and then they're still doing their job, which is protecting the rest of my army. So it's one of those, I really enjoy that unit and that type of play style, I guess. They don't lose efficiency as much as a trooper unit, so I try to use them to, again, really support and protect the rest of my force. And, I enjoy playing with them. Most of the only ones I don't play with and haven't played with are Tauntauns. I'm sitting at my desk right now, and I'm looking at them all nice in their shrink wrap boxes on the shelf because I just kind of refuse to play them.
Same.
because of the way that they are perceived by most people, and that they're just, kind of too powerful.
I think now it's okay.
Yeah, I think
the only reason I haven't fielded them yet is because Trista's painting up my only box of them that I bought, and she's not done painting them yet. So I'm like, I'll wait till they're painted, and then I'll field them and throw them in and see how they do.
Yeah, one of the after playing the veterans, it's one of the things that I really am pretty interested in is doing some, like, a thematic list that's just all Hoth with, T-47, Tauntauns, veterans, and the Mark IIs, or even not full Tauntauns, but adding, like, an FD turret or something like that in there, and just running the list like that. That's something that I would love to see FFG do. It's something that, like I said, I play the Lord of the Rings game from Games Workshop, and I love that they're called Legendary Legions in the Lord of the Rings game, and it encourages you to take a thematic army. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, it would be, something like that in this game would be like an Endor-themed army. So you might be limited, like I wouldn't be able to bring, let's say, Commander Luke, but I could bring Operative Luke because that's in a time period of, the films.
Right.
That's the kind of Luke that was around back then. It wasn't little flyboy, whiny Luke. It was, now I'm a Jedi Knight, trained with Yoda Luke.
Right.
So I would love to see something like that where you'd get like special bonuses, but you might be limited in what you could bring. Again, same thing as the Lord of the Rings game. They limit you on your heroes to what would be thematically appropriate for that time period or that battle or whatever it might be. But then you get some extra little perks that are just only because you kind of took that kind of sacrifice by bringing something thematic. I think this game lends itself to that. I mean, there's so much stuff Fantasy Flight can do with this game. They could keep it going for years and years to come. It's something that I'd like to see. I think there's a lot of fans who already try to do that and like to bring something like you just brought, your Tantive 4 list. Is it the most competitive 500-point list? Probably not. However, it's very thematic. It's when you sit across from that list, you're like, oh, I'm right at the beginning of A New Hope. Like, here I am.
The owner over at Atomic is a Hoth lover. He loves Hoth stuff. So we've started setting him up with Hoth. He loves Tauntauns. He thinks they're the greatest thing in the world, and he doesn't do too bad with them. He's learning. There's a learning curve with them, make sure that you're here and what to do with them, not to get them killed. Don't forget to take your dodge tokens. So I think it's really cool to take thematic games like that, especially, and this is a good place to do it because you can put your veterans in there. You can put a set of Tauntauns in, and I think it's a really good thing, and it's cool because I think ending up here with Skirmish that it brings out a lot of thought process to where when you play 800, you're figuring out what to do to win, with a big grander army. And with this, it's just like, you're in the back alley of a town and you've got, 5 squads of people with you. What are you going to do with that? So I think it makes people think a little bit more and like you said, pull stuff out of the box that normally doesn't get played because in an 800-point game, it just gets rolled under the machine. To where here it's basically everybody's scratching to win, and I think it brings out a lot of the cool things that people just don't realize. Hey, I could play this or I could play that, like your fleet troopers. You never see fleet troopers, and I think it's cool that you brought those out and played them, and you weren't real successful, but you got to win with them. I mean, and probably if we played Skirmish another couple of months, you'd probably figure out a click and go, oh, you know what I've been doing? I've been doing something just a little bit south. If I take it a little bit up, or I change this out, that you'd have a really good team with them, and that you could win go 2-1 maybe.
I'd go, oh, you know what I've been doing is I've been rolling white dice.
Well, yeah,
That's
white
my
dice are the bane.
I need to take these white dice out and fix those. There we go. Now it's good.
Now you can fix it, yeah.
I think we should move on to the hobby segment. So, do we have any final thoughts on Skirmish in general?
Two thumbs up. I love to watch it play. Love to judge it. Love to watch you guys play. I like to play it when I do get to play, which seems to be getting smaller increments, but I really enjoy when I started this game. I really wanted to play, and but it's really cool to watch people and judge, and when somebody has a question, get over there and take care of it, and to teach the new guys because, like I say, I'll grab the new people to play, and I get to play once a week, like I say, with Mike, or sometimes we'll get other people over to play, but it's really a joy to watch you guys play because you do put a lot of thought into it, and I think when we switched over to Skirmish, we'd been playing 800 points so long that you guys had to go into a lower gear, to get really good things. And like I said, just to watch everybody at the store go, oh, well, this is a totally different animal, and watch that to me is really cool. And everybody comes up and goes, this was awesome. Thank you for running Skirmish. This is cool, and thanks for the cool prizes. And everybody seems to have a good time, and that's what I like to see. We're there to play, throw some dice, kill some stuff, have a good time. And Skirmish just added to it because now a lot of the players who don't have, I don't want to say the mindset, but they're trying to figure out what to do with 800 points of stuff. This took away a lot of that, and they could actually play and learn.
Yep. As a just to recap, Skirmish is absolutely the quicker, faster version of Legion that serves as a great demo game for you, and also is going to bring units to the table and lists to the table that you would not otherwise see. So if you're looking for a way to freshen up the game and you just haven't played any Skirmish, or you played little Skirmish and you're looking to just do it around the house or like with your buddies, or you're looking to, try it for a couple months at your store, or do like, what I hear some of the other stores do, they do like an escalation league or something like that, and they start at Skirmish and then they work up to 800, and then maybe they work up to Grand Army, like that stuff. Like, definitely give it a shot.
The rule book is out there on the FFG site, so they,
Yep.
You can download it and you can cut out all the cards and stuff. Some of the guys down in Indy actually printed out cards, and we got those at the last tournament, at the last Prime. So that worked out kind of cool. But yeah, play some Skirmish. It's a lot of fun.
All right, let's transition into a short little hobby update and little hobby section, and we'll ride out that way. Bob.
All right, guys.
I've seen you've got some Mustafar people now.
Yeah, what I did was Slade, the store, and I know I've mentioned him a lot this time. He come to me one day and he's like, "Man, can you build this ATST?" And I'm like, "Why do you want an ATST? You play Rebels." "Because it's cool looking." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you want done to it?" And he's like, "Just paint it gray and leave it on the regular base." And I'm like, "No, I don't do that. That's not what I do. You could do that. Get a can of spray paint and spray paint it gray and just throw it on the shelf." So he finally, after a couple of weeks of me bugging him, said, "Do whatever you want with it, I don't care." So I battle damaged it up and scraped it up, and I'm like, I got to do a cool base. Well, I was thinking, you know what's cool that I haven't seen very much of? Mustafar. It's basically charcoal and lava fields. And so I got to working on it, and I had some sand, some just actual pool sand we'd put in a pool, and I had some sand left in the back of the truck. So I took a base, and I was using Elmer's glue, watered down a little bit, and I would paint that on there, and then I would just dip it in the sand and let it all dry out, and I would spray paint it black. But I would take pieces of tape, and I would cut little valleys in between where the sand was, so that your figures have a place to stand, to where they're not standing in lava, because, floor is lava is a thing on Mustafar. So what I did was I did that, and then I go in with just some red. I forget what it is. It's all Army painter paint, so I think it's maybe Dragon Red. And I put a base coat of that down, watered down. And then I go in with Lava Orange, which is another Army painter color. And I go in and I highlight the edges of where the actual ground is. And, the ground is painted black, so you've got that charred, look of it, of being in a lava field. And then I go in and I highlight where the lava is actually touching the sand that I put in there, and just do little dots of it, so it looks like that it's so hot that the sand is starting to glow. And usually I'll take a piece. I did it with I did Del Mico and Gideon Hask to go with my Inferno squad, and with Iden. I did Iden with it too. So they all match, so they look like they're all on Mustafar fighting off a battle with mine. And then I took my extra ISF, I think is the other pieces that go with that, did the same thing. So those guys all match. So when I'm on the field, I can tell, okay, well, there's Gideon with his guys. I run Gideon with a group of shore troopers, and they're the normal shore troopers from Rogue, but he's actually got a Mustafar base. And then with Del Mico, I took a set of shores, because I run them with shores, and painted them all black and did red markings on them, so they look like they're just a unit of Inferno. And I use the same lava base. But it gets a really good effect. It's a real quick, easy, dirty way. I've actually been I ran out of the sand in the truck. I've been using snow from one of the hobby stores. I got some snow for some bases for, I put Clan Ren on a snow base. Based off the television show, their base was on a snow planet. And I just painted over with black and did the same thing, and it worked out really good. You get a little bit more granular if you use the snow. But they all turned out really, really neat, and I've done that all with Slade. All of Slade's Imperials, like I say, he usually gets one of everything. He owns the store, but he always has me paint those, and I always make them the same. So his whole Imperial army is thematic to being on Mustafar. And that's about it. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. Get you a can of just dollar store black spray paint. And then, like I said, any red I usually water it down, so it's a little bit lighter on the outer edges. And as I get closer to where the land parts are, I darken red. Excuse me. I darken the red up a little bit, And they've come out pretty good. I haven't really posted very many pictures of them, but I might do that here pretty soon out on the Legion Academy site if they'll let me do it. But that's my hobby.
Put it on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I could put it on Facebook and do it.
But
yeah, they all
you can tell everyone here. You want the tutorial how I did it? Just go listen to this episode.
That's pretty much my hobby tip for that. Then, like I said, we did some Clan Ren. I did 3 sets of those, and I ended up. If you watch the episode where they actually go to where Clan Ren is based. And when she goes to visit her mother, it's all snow, so I ended up using the snow for that too. But snow bases are easy. You just put the snow on it and spray it down. Yep, call it done. It's pretty simple to do. But the lava ones take a little bit more time, but the effect is really cool. I got yelled at one day by somebody. I'd done a tank, one of the Imperial tanks, and I put it on the lava field. And somebody at the store said, why is it running through lava? Aren't the treads going to melt? So I had magnetized it, so I pulled it off, and you can actually see the treads in the sand. When I put the sand down before it dried, I pushed the tank treads down into it. So you can actually see that it's actually going over the lava field, and it's actually not running through it. So just little tippies like that people, when they want to judge your stuff, you can go, no, I didn't mess up. And that's that. What you got? I know you've got a really cool piece that you showed me on Saturday that is amazingly cool, and I hear you're doing it to one of my favorite characters also. So what do you got, Ben?
Well, all right. I've been doing ever since the Flight Sands came out. I knew I had to do some airborne heroes, and so I started with my favorite, which is Sabine. And I talked about this last episode, but I basically cut around some pieces of the standard. All the pieces that I used on her are from her own kit, so you can do this if you have the gall to do it, to cut up that model, and you have some green stuff, and you feel like you want to do it. You can totally. Well, I guess the flight stand is from anywhere else, but. You can totally cut her up into a certain pose. I cut one of her legs and repositioned her head, and then used green stuff to make a different neck, and then posed her arms so that they were the sword was hanging down, the Darksaber was hanging down, and her gun was pointed out, and she is now a horizontal flying Sabine. So the model is now horizontal as opposed to vertical, and is now flying on a tall flight stand, and it is beautiful. I put her on the Lothal. I used some Mountain Tuft and just put her on Lothal looking base, and that one was really fun. And I just started Captain Rex, and I have kit bashed him up with. I've seen a couple people do similar stuff. I'm kit bashing him up with ARC Troopers. So I took one of the ARC Troopers that has in-flight feet, and I just used those legs. If anyone else does that and they want it to look really good, I really had to sand down the legs that I wanted from the back. Because his legs will not fit with the way that Rex's comma goes with his legs. If you just want to leg swap him, it's gonna be, I had to do some work. Maybe I'm stupid, and maybe everyone else has figured out how to do it easier, but I really had to sand those legs down from the back to where they were almost gone. There was almost no butt. I had to sand the butt off of Rex. And then I still had to do some green stuff to make it really fit, but I think it looks good now. And then I gave him his right arm where he's pointed out with his gun, but then his left arm I stole from an ARC Trooper where he's got kind of the bent up. Where he's just gonna kind of up, near his helmet a little bit, he's pointing up and he's just shooting with the right one. And so I did that, and then I took his Phase 2 helmet, and then I took a backpack a jetpack from the ARCs and did that too. So I've currently got him I want to say 60 to 70% painted, and then I just need to put him on a flight stand in the base. I'm definitely going to use some droid parts for his base to make a fallen droid or two. So he'll be flying over some fallen clankers. But at some point after that, I got CAD I want to do as well.
I was going to say, speaking of some droid bits on the base and a Rex conversion, can you also talk through your other Rex conversion that you showed me, because I thought it was amazing, and the fact that you were able to take bits from a clone unit and not lose like any models by doing the conversion. I thought you did a really creative thing with that unit. Can you talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah, and I think I talked about it on our kit bashing episode, but I'll totally touch it again here because it was just a really fun conversion that I did. And if you want to get technical, I lost some droid models, but yes. I bought them for basing purposes, so.
It's not a loss when you lose droid models because, well, they're droids, so it's okay. Go ahead.
Alright, so I took Captain Rex. This was my Captain Fordo from Gendy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. And I took Rex and I cut off his left leg. And I took a Phase 1 unit and I took the crouching model from that. And now I'm like looking over across the room at my Phase 1 clones, so I'm like not messing this up. But I took the crouching model and I took the crouching model's left leg, cause he's like kneeling on the right leg, but he's got the left leg like up, like forward. So I cut off that leg from that crouching guy, and I gave the crouching leg to Rex, or Fordo, I guess in this case, and I put it there, and then I took and that gave him a gap, so now he was doing like the Captain Morgan. I had to do a little bit of green stuff work, but now he's got a leg up, like he's standing on like top of a rock or something. But what I did was I took some B1 heads and I bought a box just so I could use B1 parts for my bases in my Republic army, and or just bits if I wanted to do fun stuff with droid bits. But I think I did like 4 or 5 heads, and I made a little mound under Fordo's foot, so he was just standing on a mound of droid heads. But then I didn't have to totally lose that crouching dude. What I did was I took the straight leg from Fordo that I cut off, and I gave it to that guy and tilted him in a way so that he became a running dude, because the other leg is kneeling. But if you give the left leg if you straighten out the left leg and make it a straight leg and put his foot on the ground, you have effectively made another running model. And I showed them to Paul, and I was telling him, like, you don't have to lose a model. Lieutenant Dan over here can get new legs. And you can have another running guy. So, I have a Phase 1 squad with 2 running guys and no crouching dudes. So if that's something you want to try, that's absolutely something you can do, and it's super cool. Now, what I wanted to say, Paul, was you beat me to this one. When we're talking about airborne heroes, there's one that you beat me to that I really want to do at some point someday because it looks really fun.
Are you talking about R2?
Yeah, I'm talking about R2.
Oh gosh, yeah, R2. I honestly, I shamelessly stole it from someone on Facebook that had posted it.
Well, sure.
And I was like, well, all of these kits come with an extra flight stand, so I'm just going to glue R2 to one of these things. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really easy. I mean, you could get a couple, you could have someone 3D print some like flames, or get some from, a bits company or something. But I think R2's pose works pretty well, where he's at. On the ground, if you just kind of glue the small under leg to the flight stand, and then you model some flames on his other 2 legs, I think he looks like his pose looks just fine up there on a flight stand, like he's flying around with his little rocket boots.
Guys, I just had a revelation. I know how I'm gonna do my flying R2. All right, hear this out. First off, it requires a $100 purchase from eBay, or I wait like half a year or a year to wait till B2 Super Battle Droids are normally in circulation again. I'm gonna cut some B2s and put some B2s on the base, and then use some green stuff or something and light them on fire. Like, make some fire, and then I'll take the flight stand and put R2 vertically above them, with little flames coming out of his feet, and just recreate the episode 3, the 2-pip. The 2-pip card. That's gonna be my ultimate R2-D2 model right there. I've got it. I've just figured
really
it out.
sweet.
Anyone want to beat me to it? I would love to see what it looks like, but until my second box of B2 Super Battle Droids are going to get used for that purpose. Paul, what have you been up to with hobby wise? What do you got going on? I know you got a super awesome Luke. I'd love to hear your process on that.
Yeah, I decided to try a bunch of different things lately. I guess that's part of the hobby, right? You can do whatever you want and
heck yeah,
make stuff look cool. Or
that's what's nice about those new door things, or the silhouettes. You can do what you want now, not have to worry about stuff hanging out and getting shot, like the tip of the lightsaber trick that they used to pull and stuff like that. It's like, if it's not in the little box, you can't see it. So I can put all this stuff over here and light stands, and it makes for a lot of good, cool hobbying. And like he said, yours is stinking amazingly cool, what you did with Luke.
So yeah, I guess I've been doing a lot of basing on my models. I've realized as I'm looking at my collection, that I've done very little basing compared to some other things. And so I knew I was thinking after the first 500 point kind of event that we had, I was like, you know what, I think I want to run Op Luke, because he was fun the first time I played him, and I just want to try him again. So I got him out. I painted him up, which is pretty quick, because he's in mostly black.
Yep.
And then I was like, I want to do something cool with him. I was like, well, I've seen some people doing this like floating rocks thing, or attempt it in other like areas, other pictures I've seen, whatnot. So I was like, I'm gonna try it. I didn't research how anybody else did it. I just kind of guessed as I went. So I honestly just went over to Walmart, and I was just over in like the hobby section. I found what I was looking for in the sewing section, honestly, and I just got these little, very, very thin pins that they had over there. And what I did is I brought them back, and I guess to not be secretive about it, well, essentially what I did with my base is I tried to make it look like there were rocks floating, like Luke was using the Force to lift a bunch of rubble around him.
And it looks really good.
Yeah, all of my bases across all of my factions so far have been the same kind of gray rubble base. I'm trying to essentially go for, I want to build some terrain and stuff for my house. I want to build a map that is like a ruined temple kind of map, and so a lot of this, gray crumbled rocks and stuff. So I wanted it to kind of look like Luke was lifting up some of those, pieces of rocks to, use as he's like going into combat, like flinging them at people or, whatever, or just to intimidate people as he's, using
powering up.
Yeah, powering up, essentially. So I just
he's a Jedi. So what he's doing is he's catching laser bolts on him when people are shooting at him. See, he's throwing the rocks in front of them. So that's what a good guy does.
So many applications for floating rocks and the Force.
Oh yeah.
I took these really small pins. I tried to get something as thin as I could. I was really looking for something, that I could find that was clear, but I couldn't quite find exactly what I was looking for. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and try it with this Luke. So I took these real thin pins. I kind of bent them and snapped them off at lengths that I wanted to, and just took some plaster of Paris, which is what I'm using my bases for, and just broke off little pieces to make them look like, little rocks or pieces of rubble, debris from a crumbled temple building, and, glued them onto these little pins and just kind of set them up in a way around the base, around Luke, to make it kind of look like he was, using the Force to lift these rocks. And I tried to do it in a way. I ended up base coating the pins that are made of metal in the gray that I do the basing base coat primer, like base coat. And so for the most part they blend in okay. Obviously it's not perfect. If you come up and pick up the model, like you can see that there's something holding up the rocks. Like it's not perfect. There are some different applications that I talked to some other people, one of them being Sean Morris of Legion Academy. He had some interesting ideas that I will try in the future when I go and do it to some next Jedi or Sith that I want to do it for. But I think, especially if you're at that tabletop distance and you're not looking for the pins or what's going on with those rocks, it definitely gives the effect that you want it to. It definitely looks like Luke is really using that force to bring that kind of like intimidation factor to all the troops that he's engaged in combat with.
Yeah. It really looks good. I picked it up and looked at it, and I was totally amazed. It was really neat because I was watching that conversation go back and forth when you were trying to figure out what to do, and he said take sprue and you do all this stuff to it and da 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 da, which I had seen the effect of that, and the sprue suggestion is kind of cool because I'm thinking about maybe trying it with something. But yours looked amazingly cool. I really enjoyed it because I walked up on it and all I saw was the rocks because I was kind of looking down at it. Like you said, you get that 30,000 foot view of the tabletop, and you're like, oh, that's cool. He's got this. How's he do that? And you pick it up and you bring it up to 6 inches away from your nose and look at it and go, oh, there's little pins there, but you really couldn't see them. I mean, you did a beautiful job on that. It was a cool setup and very interesting. I love that where he's raising the rocks and he's raising Yoda and stuff, and then he just kind of drops them, and you could figure by it at that point in his career where that model actually represents, it's a no-brainer. He just picks them up and either throws them or, catches bolts with them or whatever the heck he's doing with them. But you did an amazing job on that. That was really cool to see.
Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate that. And I guess if I were going to say something to someone else who wants to, do something hobby-wise like that, is just go for it. It might not be perfect. Like I don't think my Luke is perfect, but obviously there's some people who really enjoyed what I did with it. And like it's your model. Do what you want. I might not be 100% happy with it, but I also feel like it does give the desired effect, as long as people like I'm not trying to win any, what are they called, like golden demons or whatever those awards are. That, nope. Like I'm not that painter, but I want someone to be like, hey, can I pick up your Luke and look at it? Like that looks really cool. I want to see how you did that. Like, no, yeah, of course, I want to see those things. Like I love talking with Ben about his conversions and how he did them, and and honestly, I think a lot of people shamelessly steal stuff from other people that they see because it's cool, and I think that's part of the hobby. That's part of the Absolutely. You see a cool paint scheme and you're like, oh, I want to do that, or you see a cool base and you're like, yeah, I want to do my army like that, and it's awesome. Go for it. Try something new. Yeah,
it makes it cool because you stole their idea, but maybe you made it better. So when next time they come around and say, "Oh, you stole my idea," kiddingly or otherwise, go, "Oh, well, I didn't even think about doing that color." Just maybe a different shade. George Lucas got it right, and just to quote the man, no idea is ever done. It's just abandoned because there's so much stuff. You get an idea and you build it, and by the time you get it done, you look at it, you've got 6 other ideas, but you can't do anything with it, or maybe you can, and you go back and you redo it. So like he said, it's never done. It's just you have to abandon it to move on to the next phase of whatever you're doing. I did another Rex. My Rex, when he came out, I was painting him the night I took him home, and I ended up doing one for somebody at the store the other day. And I looked at mine and I said, okay, well that's a flaw. That's not right. I had to fill in a little bit there because it didn't fit together right, or I didn't put it together right. So the next one that I made, I mean, it was 5 times better than mine, and I almost wanted to keep it. And I'm like, no, that's somebody else's. You can't do that. But I put you were talking about using droid parts, at the clone's feet. I actually took that old WotC, the WizKid game, the old Star Wars game that we were talking about earlier, and I used the droids from there because that their models. I don't know who quality checked them, but some of the droids are almost as big as Legion droids. So I actually used some of those. I just cut their heads up and their bodies in sections and put bullet holes in, or laser blasts in them, and put them at the feet of Rex and some of the other clones, which is a great idea. I mean, and then Ben took it one further. He bought a kit of them, and they're exactly the right size, and did them. So it's always cool to see an idea that you play around with and then see somebody else's take on it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff. Like, I mean, my clone troopers are like a light gray and purple because I'm terrified of painting white. I hate it. It never seems to come out the way that I want it to, as much as I try. And I've painted stuff for years, and I feel like I have a decent like tabletop standard like paint job that I do. And I just hate white. And you know what? And I was like, I'm gonna do gray instead because I just don't want to paint white. And I love the way my clone troopers look. It's just
they still look great.
Do you do whatever you want. That's one thing that I've done with Legion is I've played some other games before where you painted miniatures, and I've played games and I'm like, okay, everything has to be canon. It has to be exactly how it would be in the movies or, whatever it might be. And with Legion, I've done essentially the opposite of that. I'm going to try all these new techniques. My rebels are all done in that urban camo scheme that Serestro did for FFG that he, had on his painting tutorial. I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow his tutorial and see what I can do. Is it as good as his paint job? No, but I did camo. And then, when I went to paint my fleet troopers, I did them in a more black and white kind of camo. So it very much just try whatever you want. It might be blasphemous to talk about it on any kind of Star Wars podcast, whatever. But one of my favorite things, and I laughed so hard the first time I saw it, was very early on in Legion. I saw somebody post on the internet. He had his squad of stormtroopers, and the stormtrooper leader was yellow. The heavy weapon was blue, and then all of the basic stormtroopers were all red. And I'm like, you have a Star Trek right there. You have your commander in gold, you have your specialist in blue, and you have all your red shirts that want to die in red. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And of course, you're mixing fandoms there, whatever. But that's the kind of stuff. Do you? It's hilarious.
You see the Power Rangers, the Power Ranger ones in X-Wing. Everybody used to paint their ships in Power Ranger colors. Yeah. So if you had 5 X-Wings, you had a pink one, you had a blue one, you had a yellow one, you had a green one, and you either had a black or whatever the leader or whatever faction of those guys that movie or comic book or whatever. If it was a black Power Ranger or the green one or the white one or whatever, but everybody does their own thing, and it's cool when you get out on a board and you look across and you're going, oh, they're playing clones, but your clones are kind of standard or whatever, but then you look at theirs and they've got all kinds of just odd colors like your gray and your purples. That's cool. I thought it was cool when the ARCs came out that they were doing Umbri from Battlefront 2 with the ARCs.
Yeah, the Umbra.
They're black, Umbra with the black and the orange. And that's amazingly cool to see because, I don't play console games. I just don't. I can't play on the computer because we live out in the boonies. So I was like, what in the hell are those things? Where did those come into canon? And I started looking through books and I got to looking and I saw it on Battlefront. And I was like, oh, that's so cool that somebody actually took an idea from a video game. That I didn't know because I pride myself on knowing Star Wars, history and everything else.
He slipped everybody point.
I did. I slipped. I used that Trek word, which was funny because Paul threw me off because I'm thinking, I never saw those stormtroopers like that. I'm going to go look for those when I get home. Mm-hmm. But that's the cool thing about the hobby aspect of the game. You can do what you want, and as long as you tell somebody this is such and such, and they agree to it, which I've never seen anybody say no, you can't use your ugly freaking stormtroopers or whatever, because that's just not the people that we deal with. Everybody in this community, for the most part, are great. We've got a great community here.
Bob, speaking of the video, like you were saying, oh yeah, I don't get to play the video games. I will say it was kind of weird to hear you say Gideon and Delmico because they're from the Battlefront 2 campaign. And I was just like, man, it was actually weird to hear those names come out of Bob's mouth because I know he didn't play that.
No, my exposure to that is the book.
Yep.
That's where I learned those guys. And then my brand new son-in-law, hello Shaughnessy, congratulations for marrying my daughter. I was sitting at his house one night, and he pulled out Battlefront 2, and I got to watch him play Iden when she was a rebel, and I got to watch Del Meeko die. Spoiler.
You can't say spoiler after the fact.
Yeah, I know, I can't. I watched Gideon Haas do it, and it was like, oh, well, everybody knew Haas was going to be an a-hole. But it was kind of sad to watch him being old, but I actually got to see that playthrough, so I kind of see what was going on, and I really wish they'd make Iden for Rebels. I think that would be really cool to see that version of her. But, yeah, so that's my exposure to that. The book was amazing, by the way. If you ever get a chance to read it and then you haven't, go get it. It's awesome.
It really was.
It's just called Inferno Squadron, so.
Yeah. The other thing was seeing the Umbra and like seeing them come from the video game to the thing. Believe it or not, I've actually taken inspiration from Squadrons now. So they have different skins for the Rebel pilots and the Imperial pilots, and they have what I'm going for with my Imperial pilot, which are these like, God, I can't remember their name now, but they're like mid-rim Monarch overturners or whatever, and they have like these slightly purple jumpsuits, and then their helmets have purple eyes, and the Imperial logo on their helmets are gold. And I'm like, I don't know how much more Ben this color scheme can get. So like when I paint one of my squads of ISF, I'm painting them up like them, because that's going to be so much fun. I'm going to love painting that. That's going to be a blast.
That will be cool looking. I can't wait to see those.
Paul, if you got any other hobby stuff you're working on, or?
Oh man, I think that's about it for me. My hobby comes and goes right now, so.
All right. Well, actually, I think my card order's finally done. I'm gonna go pick those up real quick.
Time.
Give me a sec.
Well, it's been good talking to you, Paul. Even though I just saw you 2 days ago, I'm glad you make it down here to play at our store. We enjoy having you. People learn a lot from you. You're very helpful, and it's very cool. And you're a good player, so it's fun to watch you beat the hell out of Ben every once in a while.
It's fun playing down. It's fun playing down there, and maybe we can get a game of Sabakan with these new cards that you guys have.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me, I'm willing. I'm all ready to bust these out right now.
Yeah. We need some fuel for the ship, and
yeah, I'm willing to earn it right now.
Yeah, so very good. Well, good seeing you, and that's cool that we ended up in the same spot at the same time for 2 times in a short time period.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too long before we see each other again.
Well, I'm sure we'll see each other next month at Atomic. I'm sure you'll be down for that. We'll be
Paul,
throwing some.
What brought you to this game store today?
Just little odds and ends that needed to pick up.
I feel like he's hiding something, Bob. What do you think?
I bet he's probably scoping out the competition, so that's how he's so good. He probably stands and watches people.
He's hiding something. I see he's hiding something under his cape there. Let's not play Sabak with him maybe today. He's probably got something up his sleeve.
I bet he does.
All right, Paul. We're gonna let you go then. We're gonna go earn our fuel back and get going, get back home.
Well, safe travels, guys.
Safe travels to you.
May the force be with you, bud.
Force be with you.
All right, Bob. I say we wrap this one up. You got any final thoughts?
No, just be good to each other. Remember, it's just a game. Have some fun. Roll some dice. Don't get in screaming matches with anybody, because we're all here for the same reasons. Have a good time.
Oh, I do have one thing. You want to talk about those sweet alt-art cards?
Oh yeah. I had some time the other day because we had to stop at a repair shop because the ship had some damage to it. And while we were doing that, I did some drawing, and that Captain Rex guy that I seem to like a lot, we made some alternate art cards with it. He's got his own card with some of my card art on it. And then it's got our Dice Time logo on the back, so if we ever do get to start going to conventions or whatever, we'll be bringing some cards around. We plan on doing 3 different sets. We just got our first one, which was our Captain Rex, and then I've got a Shore Trooper one that I'm wanting to put out next. I've got to get that done. There's a girl, Cards by Cami, who set up the Rex card for me. I wanted it portrait instead of landscape, and she did an awesome job. She's out there on Facebook, and she's been putting out some alternate art cards out there too. Just look her up out there. Does a really great job. She took what I sent her and cut it down and made it fit, and we went and got the cards made locally. But she'll actually make your cards for you. But she did a really good job. She got our Dice Time logos on the back, and we're good to go. So like I said, we'll be doing some Shore Troopers. I'm going to do a Sabine card for Ben, because that's his favorite. And we'll get those out when we hit the convention circuit, hopefully sometime soon next year.
Hopefully.
I miss it.
I'll say there's still a small it's a small chance that I might swing LVO. I don't know if I'll play, but I might just go. Which rhymed. And so on that note, we should probably end it here, because it's not going to get much better than that.
I don't think it is.
So thanks everyone so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. We're gonna go earn some money and
we'll
play
see you
some
next
games.
month.
Play some totally fair games with
Totally
custom
fair
cards.
Totally.
That are not marked.
Not marked at all. No. It's just got that pilot on the back of it.
Yeah.
Just winking with that left eye. Yeah, that's the one.
She's not holding numbers or anything. That's
No, not at all. They're perfectly legal. You guys all have a nice time.
Yep, have a nice time, everybody, and go out and make today even better.